Continuing my Resident Evil journey, I stepped into the Resident Evil 2 Remake without knowing too much about it. I do have some vague memories of playing the original RE2 back on the Nintendo 64 as a kid, but I don't think I got too far back then. Now, I know a lot of people said to play the original version over the remake, but the truth of it is, I'd already picked up the remake version when Steam was having its last sale. I only have PC to game on right now, and I just didn't have access to the original, so for convenience sake, and essentially being a brand new fan to the franchise, I went with this one. So this is the version that I'm going to be reviewing, and going purely off of this version, I do have to say I thought this game was pretty great, but in a very different way than the original Resident Evil. I like this as an idea for a sequel in that it does continue from the first, but shows a different area with different characters. It also ups the stakes by having the virus starting to infect the entire population of Raccoon City, as well as having a couple of tyrants throughout the course of the game, instead of just one at the end for a final boss. This is the Outbreak, the zombie apocalypse, and it feels very much like a classic zombie movie and scenario, but also in line with the first Resident Evil in that you are mostly exploring a singular location, unlocking different doors to gain access to new areas, solving mysteries and puzzles, and of course battling a ton of monsters. Though this time, they did away with the fixed camera angles that I know the original RE2 still had, and those are definitely an acquired taste, but after playing the first game, I kinda have to agree that I love that style and I miss it for this one. But this one does feel a little bit more like a transition into an action style game that's a little bit more in line with Resident Evil 4, which I have played before, but it still has plenty of horror and suspense.
What in the...
Similar to the first game, you can play as two characters. Here we have Claire, who is actually the sister of Chris from the original game, and she's looking for her brother. And we also have Leon, who is here for his first day on the job as a police officer in Raccoon City, and it just so happens to coincide with the zombie outbreak. That's a pretty bad stroke of luck there. But unlike RE1, where Chris and Jill's story is pretty much exactly the same, they just switch roles, here Leon and Claire have completely different stories happening simultaneously. So you do actually have to play as both of them in order to get the full story, and I like that aspect a lot better. They interact here and there, and I like how, depending on who you play as, you get to see those interactions again, but in different context. They meet up early on at the gas station that's overrun with zombies heading into the city, and it's not long after that they get separated, with both of them navigating the same areas, but in different ways at different times. The only thing that doesn't quite work with this in both stories is that you still basically have to solve the same puzzles and do the same things over again, like moving the bookcases in the library. For example, if you do that in Leon's story, you still have to do that again in the Claire story. So it's not like they coincide in a way where what you do and the decisions you make in the first story are going to be there in the second. You pretty much still have to solve all the same puzzles over again, and that is a little bit annoying on the second run. So even though the storylines are technically different and all the cutscenes are different, and you learn different information in both stories, the actual gameplay is pretty much the same, except with slight variations, like the combination to a puzzle might be a little bit different, or an item will be in a different room as opposed to the room it was in the first run, but that's about it. Still though, I did much prefer the format as far as this game goes over the first Resident Evil, just in the sense that you do get two different stories going on. But as far as the gameplay, minus the boss fights, it does really feel like you're just playing the same game twice. Thankfully though, the game is a lot of fun, and you also get different weapons on each playthrough, so there are pros and cons here. Overall, I didn't mind it that much. Here, the main location is the police station, and it basically functions the same way as the mansion did in the first Resident Evil. It's a huge facility you're able to explore. Certain doors are locked or blocked, and you need to find keys and other items to gain access to the entire station. It's, of course, filled to the brim with zombies, and even without the fixed camera angles, it still does a great job maintaining the tension and horror, with plenty of dark hallways where you only have one little flashlight to navigate, and the zombies here are very very hard to kill, many of them needing at least 4 headshots or more to take them down, and even then they still come back. And like every Resident Evil game, you have to be very careful about how much ammo you use and how many items you can carry at one time. But the big improvement for me, at least as a new player, is thank God I did not need to find ink ribbon to save this time. All you have to do is find a typewriter, which still can be really hard to get to a save point in time, but in the original, it felt like a goddamn nightmare to get enough done and still hold on to enough ink ribbon to save. Here, it's not quite that bad. I like the police station just fine as an area to explore. There's a lot of cool things in here. It's not as cool as the mansion from the first game, but they still keep it pretty interesting, and eventually you get out and explore other areas too. But I do wish you got to spend more time in the city streets, and I can understand it would probably be very difficult to create that and would turn it into more of like an open world experience, which is not what Resident Evil is, and as well, they're remaking a game that already exists, so they were kind of stuck to the previous narrative. But any of the rare moments where you're smack dab in the middle of the city were some of my favorite scenes, even if they were brief. The sewer segment in both storylines is by far the worst in my opinion. I'm probably stupid, but that puzzle with the chess pieces and putting them in the right order, that was a pain in the ass, and it really killed the vibe for a while. But thankfully, after that, you travel to this huge underground laboratory of the Umbrella Corporation where the viruses are made, and this was a really cool experience. It was like a hyper advanced extension of what the laboratory in the first game was. The plant creatures you fight are pretty cool, and I did like the transitioning from this grimy, disgusting sewer location to this slick and technologically advanced lab area. Both storylines have their own subplot going on involving another character. In Leon's story, he meets Ada Wong, who claims to be working with the FBI in order to get Leon to help her get a sample of the virus. And in Claire's storyline, you meet a young girl named Shelly, who is the daughter of 2 of the scientists that are involved with creating the virus. She's abducted by this police chief who is just creepy as all fuck, and almost the scariest thing about the entire game. I couldn't help but feel incredibly disturbed when you have to play as the little girl and hide from him. In a series that deals with plenty of monsters, this was a much more realistic horror, and I definitely wasn't expecting it. As for playing as Ada Wong, I do wish it was better. She has this cool device that can disrupt electronics, but overall her segment was kind of bland and just felt like it was taking up time before you got back to Leon. But now I have to mention the elephant in the room. Goddamn Mr. X. Okay, so this game has 2 main tyrants that are your final bosses of each story. Mr. X is like this 7-foot-tall, gray-skinned, hulking force wearing a trench coat that was sent to the police station to kill any survivors there. And he basically terrorizes you throughout most of the police station segment. In the first scenario, he only shows up about halfway through it, but in the second, he's pretty much there the entire time. He works as this constant obstacle that you have to avoid, and the most that you can do is distract him with a powerful shot or just run away from him. He's not an enemy that you can fight, at least not until the end of the game, and it adds a whole new level of fear because he could be anywhere. And the more noise that you make, or if you run too fast or fire your gun off, then he's going to hear you and come to kick your ass. And when you hear his footsteps in the distance, but you can't tell where he is, it's legitimately terrifying. So many times he gets in the way of what you're trying to do, and it can be extremely frustrating. But it's a unique element that would make every individual experience of playing this game different for each person that does. Because not only do you have to find specific items and solve puzzles, get to new areas, but you also have to do this while somebody that looks like the motherfucking judge from Blood Meridian is constantly stalking you so he can put his fist up your ass. Fighting Mr. X at the end of the game as Leon had my heart racing like crazy. You have a countdown to an explosion happening at the same time. You have Mr. X going all out, and you just have to pray that you have enough firepower to take him down in time. With Claire, you battled the other tyrant, which actually you fought a couple of times throughout the course of the game with Leon as well. This one is Sherry's father, William, who had injected himself with the G virus and became an even more powerful tyrant. There's a scene in the Claire storyline where he basically rips Mr. X in half, and considering how difficult X was to fight, it seems that Birkin is definitely the most powerful here. I could be wrong on that. I'm just going with the experience of the game. But anyways, the game gives you a minigun at the end when you fight Birkin, which is basically saying, yeah, you're going to need this Good luck. But between the two final fights, I do think I like the Leon versus X one better because it felt a little bit more intense. It took me like 5 or 6 tries to beat him, but fighting Birkin only took me 2 tries. Overall, though, I really enjoyed the experience of this game. I thought it was a ton of fun. The characters are both great, and I love the double narrative happening at the same time. Mr. X and Birkin are both terrifying tyrants in their own way, and they add an extra element of fear to the game that's already intense enough just with the zombies and locations. I really enjoyed the zombie outbreak happening here. It felt very classic, and it made the story feel like it was getting larger and getting a little bit more depth into the Umbrella Corporation and all the shady shit that they are up to. My only real gripe with the game is that when you do the second storyline, the gameplay is pretty much exactly the same as it was for the first, just with very slight variations. It does help you get through it a little bit faster, but it can make the tedious parts feel even more tedious. But I am really trying to just go through the general story of the Resident Evil games this year and play through the series. I'm not very hardcore knowledgeable on the entire thing. I've only played a couple throughout the course of my life, so this is my chance to kind of go through it for the first time and really experience the overall storyline. I am told that Resident Evil 3 takes place during the same time as Resident Evil 2, like they're happening simultaneously, I'm pretty sure. So I guess I'm not done with Raccoon City just yet. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of the Resident Evil 2 remake. Now, I've heard very conflicting things from people. Some people love it, but a lot of old school fans didn't like how it was remade. Go ahead and let me know in the comments like what specifically about it made it worse. As long as everybody is cool and civil with each other on differing opinions, I think we'll be fine. But let me know what you think about this game down below. This is just my personal experience and my review of the game. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up and a comment if you enjoyed it. If you want to stick around and support the channel, do have a Patreon, channel membership, all that stuff linked down below. I could use the help right now. I'd appreciate it. But other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.